Meeting to order now. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the May 27, 2026 Police Community Advisory Committee meeting. I call the meeting to order now. Okay. I wish we had more people coming, but anyways, maybe they're at work. But some are just probably arriving home, and they could still join us through the Zoom. All they got to do is go to find the webinar link, post it on the agenda at the city website, and boom, we're all together. The Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, Martha, would you give us a roll call?
Yes. Committee Member Birrera?
Present.
Committee Member Camacho?
Present.
Committee Member Miller? Committee Member Gasca?
Present.
Committee Member Alvarado?
Here.
Committee Member Hayes? Chair De La Rosa?
Okay. Now we shall go to general public comments. We have a limit of 2 minutes, but it could be extended if we don't have too much on the agenda, okay?
Hi, Peter Zalai. I just wanted to come by for a moment. I can't stay. I wanted to comment on 2 items. One, I went to the budget meeting yesterday, and they talked about releasing the 4 frozen positions, which I think is a very good addition to our public safety efforts in this town. I just wanted to request from the police if they could consider placing those 4 positions back into the traffic enforcement area. I know at one time we had 8 officers on motorcycles, and now I think we only have 2. So maybe 4 or some of those could go back to traffic enforcement. I think that would be great. And the other thing I'd like to talk a little bit about is the mayor spoke about a force of maximum force of the police being maybe 200 officers. Right now we have 161. And I'm struggling a little bit about that because when you look at all the priorities that the city has to add another 39 officers, I don't quite know why that number is a magic number. So I would like to see some rationale as to why we would add police to any number, whatever the number is, 180 or 187 or 165 or whatever the number is, that there be some connection to crime or response time, or not just pulling a number out of the air. That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. Plus, when the lady was here, I think her name is Tanya, who gave some budget information, she said that at one time the city had, the police department budget was 43.5% of the general budget, and now it's 35%. And so the thinking there is it should be higher than 35%. Again, I'm not sure why these numbers matter, right? Unless they're tied to specific, what is that money doing for us? So I'm not really sure it's important that what the number be. It's just meet the needs, I guess, is what I think we should be thinking about. So I'd like to move us away from a number and more in terms of what is the need, if that makes any sense. So that's all I wanted to share with you. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. If that makes any sense.
No comments via Zoom.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, we'll go now to consent agenda, approval of the minutes from last month. Are there any questions or comments from the committee members on the agenda? None? None? None?
Is there, on the committee member reports, was that the only, I saw that it was only committee member Hayes? I don't recall if there was any other committee. Okay.
No, there were comments after presentations, but not during that specific,
Okay.
at the end.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Now we are open now for public comments on this item. No one? Anybody on Zoom?
No comments via Zoom.
Okay, now can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve.
Yeah.
Yeah, second motion? Got it. With a motion from
Camacho.
from you?
Yeah, Camacho.
From this, we will have a roll call vote. Martha, please.
So motion from Camacho and seconded by Virueta. And we call for vote. Committee Member Virueta?
I move to approve.
Yes. Committee Member Camacho?
Yes.
Committee Member Gasca?
Abstaining. I wasn't here.
Thank you. Committee Member Alvarado?
Pass.
Yes. And Committee Member Hayes? Yes. Chair De La Rosa?
Yes.
Motion pass.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we are moving to our chief's report. Mr. Kendall?
Good evening. Thank you for having me here, and thanks for being here. I'm Kendall Gray. I'm a commander at the police department, and I'm here on behalf of Chief Acosta. I do not have anything to report to you tonight, but we do have a traffic presentation a little bit later with Sergeant Martin.
No questions? Questions? No public comments on this item? None? Comments on Zoom?
No public, no comment via Zoom.
None? Committee members? None? Wow, that was quick. So now we are moving to presentations. Ooh.
Give me 1 second to put the presentation, okay? Thank you. Ready.
Take a little bit of a deeper dive into exactly what the traffic unit of the police department does, what type of responsibilities we have other than where everybody normally sees us on the side of the road and some sort of enforcement stop. So let's go ahead and get into it. So our traffic unit, it's the most highly requested service of the police department. People are able to, or community is able to contact us requesting enforcement in different areas. So they're able to contact us and request traffic enforcement through different means that I'll get into in a little bit. As the other gentleman pointed out, I think that would have been a great opportunity for him to stick around and present a little bit and share the exactly what it is that we do. Our traffic unit was partially collapsed during critical staffing. We only had one dedicated officer last fiscal year, one dedicated full-time officer. This current fiscal year that we're in, we have 2 full-time traffic officers. The supervisor position, which is the spot that I fill, is a collateral spot. So my primary assignment at the police department is patrol. And then collaterally, I supervise a traffic unit as well. We've recently added 6 collateral officers as well. So just like or similar to me, their primary function is patrol, but on an overtime basis. They will jump on a motorcycle and conduct enforcement. They will get out in the community and conduct education. Meet and greets, go to the schools, and be able to help out with investigations as well. Our traffic unit, I think the easiest way to explain it is broken down into strategic 3 areas. Again, the most common one that everyone sees us out there is the enforcement aspect of it. And through enforcement is basically a traffic stop. We see a driver commit a violation, we pull them over and take some sort of enforcement action, whether it is education, the issuance of a citation, or all the way up to physical arrest and booking into county jail and seizing a vehicle. We do participate in the STOP program, which I'll get into and explain a little bit later as well, which is an arm of the enforcement part of the traffic unit. The second one is the investigation. This is the area where we don't necessarily want to see our community in, because if we get called out to investigate a crash as a traffic unit, it usually means somebody has sustained some sort of major injury or a fatal injury where we come into play. Most recently, we've been investigating street racing and sideshow as well, which I'll cover in a few more slides. And I would say the most recent one that we've been able to touch on more frequently is the education part of it. Through some grants that we've been able to, they've been awarded, we've been able to conduct outreach presentations to schools, to different community centers as well. And we cover everything from bicycle safety to pedestrian safety to the consequences of drinking and driving, of wearing your helmet, making sure you're wearing some sort of high visibility clothing when you're out there as well. So we've been able to kind of touch on different aspects of traffic safety in general and target different specific community members, all the way from small kids to elder adults as well. The enforcement aspect now, diving a little bit deeper into that, is we partnered with the STOP program, which is an acronym for Strategic Traffic Observation and Prevention Program. And the goal of this program is to focus enforcement on roadways with increased collisions, and our goal is to educate and reduce collisions. So the picture up here are the participating agencies within Monterey County. I am the STOP coordinator for the county, and essentially how this program works is once a month we go into different jurisdictions and conduct enforcement operations. And through the enforcement, we either issue citations, conduct, if need be, arrests, or education as well. So for instance, the Salinas Police Department hosted STOP earlier this month on May 14th. During this operation, the participating agencies conducted 213 traffic stops, issued 182 citations, and the top speed in your city was 80 miles per hour. So, and this is what our officers see frequently, is this type of high speeds. Every so often I'll jump on a motorcycle myself to conduct enforcement, and when I do, it's pretty common to see high speeds like this throughout the city. So just to kind of give you an idea of the dangers that our community members face every day of this type of speed. The other type of enforcement is sideshows. That's kind of been a hot button community requested event from previous conversations. Last year, we participated in a multi-agency sideshow enforcement operation consisting of those 4 agencies listed above. And through that, we were able to conduct 2 operations, one in May and one in October of last year. And the results were 109 citations were issued, 8 vehicles were towed, and 6 vehicles were referred to a state referee. So essentially their vehicles were so modified that they didn't meet emission standards set by the state of California, that we referred them to go get an inspection on their car to bring them back into compliance before they're allowed to drive again. We also had 4 arrests, and one of the allied agencies was able to seize an illegally owned rifle during that. So that was last year. And what about this year? So this year, I'm sure pretty much the community is aware of a sideshow that took place at multiple locations back in April this year. It was all over social media, and the officers that were working that night were able to request mutual aid assistance from the Sheriff's Department and the California Highway Patrol. So they were able to essentially break up the sideshow, conduct traffic stops, issue citations for those, so it wouldn't prevent, or it would prevent anything more serious happening as far as somebody becoming injured or fights breaking out. The real investigation came afterwards when people posted the videos to social media, whether they were the drivers themselves, the passengers in the car, or the spectators on the street. And through that, we're able to conduct the investigation, identified 9 vehicles that were involved in the sideshows throughout Salinas, and author seizure warrants signed by a judge to where we were able to seize the vehicle for 30 days. Additionally, we identified 4 participants of the sideshow and physically arrested them as well. Not more than a few weeks after that, the 2 motorcycle officers that we have assigned to the traffic unit were on routine enforcement patrol when, again, going back to those high speeds I was talking about, came across 2 individuals who were driving 74 miles per hour in a 40-mile-an-hour zone. So they took immediate enforcement action, seized their vehicle for 30 days, arrested them for reckless driving, and then they went all the way to the city of Marina to find the second driver and tow his car as well. This just goes to show that with the 2 officers we have, we're trying to and are able to make the impacts of holding people accountable who decide to drive reckless in the city. Now the education part. Our officers have been able to conduct community presentations, and these are just a list of some of the locations that they've conducted the presentations. And again, it's anything from educating young children to use crosswalks, use the lighted crosswalks, wait for the crosswalk to illuminate with the lights, or wait for the little white light to signal across, all the way to the dangers of and consequences of drinking and driving. We've also acquired.
Salinas has seen far too many accidents
that.
involving pedestrians,
Thank you.
bicyclists, and vehicles. Safety.
Since we're there, we'll talk about it. In partnership with the city, the fire department, and the police department, we issued a PSA about pedestrian and bicycle safety. Again, those that follow the social media platforms throughout the city, this was pushed out again through pedestrian and bicycle safety. And then on the right is the radar and variable message system, or VMS trailers, and it's a quick reminder for the drivers who maybe aren't paying attention, who have other stuff on their mind. It's a quick reminder of, hey, this is your speed limit, and this is what your speed is to slow down. Those have been requested at different locations as well, so we're working with the city's engineering department at placing those at locations to where either we feel is a good idea to remind drivers to slow down, but more recently, we've been a request from community members of, hey, we have cars that are constantly speeding on this street, up and down this area, and so we've been able to deploy them as well. So if anybody's interested, at the end of the presentation, there's ways to contact us requesting that information. There we go. Okay, on to the investigation side. So when we aren't able to take enforcement action and the education aspect of the traffic unit, doesn't have the impact, the unfortunate consequences when we're called out. Our officers, the 2 full-time and the 6 collateral officers, have specialized advanced training in collision investigation. Some of that type of training I want to dive a little bit into just to show you the type of training and the extensive training the officers go into. One of those is a vehicle mechanical inspection. So after a vehicle is crashed, it's towed to the tow yard, right? And we conduct our investigation, and we need to determine whether there is a mechanical failure of that car that contributed to the crash. And that could be something wrong with the steering, maybe the brakes didn't work as properly as they should, something that may have contributed to the crash other than the driver themselves. So our officers have this additional training, or the advanced training, to where they can go through and conduct what's called the mechanical inspection and look at all the damaged parts in the car and determine whether that was caused by the crash or that was pre-existing that contributed to the crash. And that is important because that could help determine whether people may be held criminally liable for a crash where they severely injured or killed somebody, or was a mechanical failure that contributed to the crash that then subsequently injured somebody. Second is the event data recorder, or what commonly is referred to as a black box of a car. So similar to an airplane, it'll give us very specific information of specifically speed with a few seconds leading up to a crash, the speed at impact, and then the few seconds after the collision of what the speed is. Depending on the make and model and year of the car, it'll even give us the percentage of gas and brake input the percentage of the steering wheel, how much turned it may or may not have been, and even sometimes how many passengers were in a vehicle, depending on if we're investigating like a hit-and-run crash. So that that information can be abstracted through with the issuance of a search warrant and then analyzed to be measured with. The third one, the skid and pedestrian throw calculations. So we have a lot of pedestrian-related collisions here in Salinas, and this type of advanced training assists us in determining how fast a vehicle is traveling at the moment of impact with the pedestrian, where we know where the area of impact was and where the pedestrian landed on the roadway through, I guess the shortest example would be through physics and mathematical equations and measurements. We can put those calculations into that and determine the vehicle speed upon impact. Before all this training, we had to outsource it to the California Highway Patrol, and it would take us 2 to 3 months for them to finish up their investigation in this and then provide us with their supplemental report. So you can imagine being involved in a crash, and whether you have a loved one or you're involved in general, and we would have to say, sorry, we're going to have to wait 2 to 3 months to get the results in so we can continue the investigation. With this specialized advanced training now, we're able to streamline the process and provide some sort of closure to those involved and the community who probably wants to know exactly what happened, how did this crash happen, and more importantly, is somebody going to be held criminally liable at the end or not. So similar with the crash investigation, we have advanced training in DUI detection and investigation as well. And this assists us all the way from the kind of a standard drunk driver swerving in a lane, they get pulled over and arrested for DUI, all the way up to something with major injury and a fatal crash. This will help us conduct the investigation, determine the level of impairment, the type of impairment, and based on that information, be able to hold people accountable for their driving or their DUI if they're determined to be. And the 3 different training or 3 different segments of that is first is standardized field sobriety tests, which I'm sure everyone has kind of seen, where you follow the tip of your finger and you walk a line, and those are the standardized ones. The next step, the prerequisite to the standardized one, is the advanced roadside impairment driving enforcement, which is like an introduction to drug impairment. And the last is a drug recognition expert. So somebody who may be under the influence of something other than alcohol, this is where this advanced training will come in to determine, again, what it may be that they're under, whether it's abuse of prescription medication to something a little more illegal or illicit. So the strategic 3 that I touched on, the enforcement, education, and investigation, have all been grant supplemented, which is great for us because it allows the traffic unit to receive additional equipment, to conduct the educational and outreach, more of it than we're able to do, and conduct the enforcement as well. So all the motorcycle replacements, the grant supplemented funding has replaced the motorcycles we have since 2020. The radar and variable message system trailers, which I believe we have 3 of them, were grant funded as well. And one of the grants that we have been continuously awarded for some time is the Office of Traffic Safety Grant. And under that, there's 2 specific grants. There's a STEP grant, which is a selective traffic enforcement program. And the second one is a pedestrian bicycle safety program. I'll touch on both of those in a minute. I just want to dive into a third one that we recently applied to this year, and we've yet to hear back as far as whether we'll be awarded that, and it's a new grant from the California Highway Patrol. And that'll, again, provide additional enforcement, education, and investigation for the traffic unit. So under the OTS, the STEP grant, it's a federal fiscal year grant cycle. We've been awarded this specific grant for more than 10 years. The funding through the STEP grant is specifically restricted for OTS activities only. It's 100% of the traffic enforcement and education activities provided by the police department staff on an overtime basis only. So it doesn't supplement the existing shifts we have. It adds to it in, next slide, these forms. So the OTS STEP grant funds our DUI checkpoints, the DUI saturation patrols, distracted driving, general traffic enforcement, pedestrian bicycle enforcement, traffic safety education presentations, and then our social media campaigns, which those photographs are all from. The second one is a pedestrian bicycle safety program grant. Again, it follows a federal fiscal year cycle. We've been awarded this specific one for the last 6 years. And again, this funding is specifically restricted to OTS activities. And we subcontract 100% of this programming and activities to Ecology Action. And they're able to fulfill this grant obligation. They're a nonprofit organization based out of Santa Cruz, but they have an office here in Salinas. They've been delivering education throughout the community since 1970, and they work with other neighboring law enforcement agencies as well to fulfill this grant obligation. And a little bit about what it is through the pedestrian and bicycle safety program. So they're able to conduct the Walk Safe classroom presentations, the walking field trips, bike safety classroom presentations, bike rodeos, learn to ride workshops, community group rides, bicycle repair clinics, and helmet and bicycle safety equipment. So this is done in addition to the community outreach that our traffic unit does. This is a grant-funded specific one, and through this PBSP grant, these are some of the deliverables that we're able to fulfill the last 3 fiscal years. So I think a good one to pay attention to is the helmets distributed. We've been able to distribute 175 helmets throughout the community. We've been increased the bicycle repair workshops from 0 to 3. So it's part of the initiative of wanting to get people outdoors, not only but biking and walking, but doing so in a safe manner. All right, so as I stated in the beginning, any specific enforcement requests or everyone refers to as like the sign boards or speed boards can be done through these links here. So to request traffic enforcement, there's the link for that through the homepage of the Salinas Police Department, the How Do I tab, and the request traffic enforcement. If you want to request specific traffic safety education presentations, same thing, homepage, community presentations, and then ask spot to present. And fill out that information and we'll be able to link up and see exactly how many officers and what type of presentation you would like to have. Any specific questions or comments at this time?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your presentation. Very insightful. I know that you guys talked about bicycle safety, which is a big thing right now, especially with the kids that are riding the e-bikes.
Mm-hmm.
What is your guys' approach to some of these youngsters? I mean, 10-year-old, 12-year-old who don't know any rules that I see riding around parks and other public places, no helmets, sometimes weaving into that out of cars. That's a very big concern for me. How do you guys approach those situations with those individuals?
That's a good question. I think with the youth, anytime, whether it's specific for e-bikes or bicycles, skateboards, scooters, I think a good approach will be educational first. That is something that we need to get the parents involved and on board on. A lot of the times the parents aren't aware. They're able to buy a bike online, it's delivered to the house, they pick it up and think, okay, they can go out and ride. And to some extent they can, but they need to follow the rules of the road. They need to have, safety equipment attached, whether it's lights or helmet or even sometimes a driver's license, depending on what it is that they're riding. So dealing with a specific person at the time, an educational approach will be good, followed by subsequent violations and then the enforcement arm of it. I know currently one of our officer of the traffic unit is putting together a pamphlet. So when we do stop that juvenile or that kid for the first time, we could hand out a pamphlet saying, hey, these are the rules you need to follow, and then distribute them at any sort of community events that we do presentations at, just so the parents know too. We've been to quite a few community event presentations to where the parents are there with their kid. That'd be a great opportunity to hand out those type of pamphlets. So he's in the kind of the final stages of finalizing it to where we can start handing that out and educating the community on it.
That's great. Thank you very much. I have one more question. When you and I talked before, we did the other presentation, we talked about the vehicles, the very loud Mustangs, Chargers, Challengers, Camaros. Generally, the guys racing around on the streets of Salinas. Have you guys noticed any kind of, since you guys have this enforcement now, have you guys noticed any kind of drop in seeing these vehicles, or what is the procedure when you guys do encounter these vehicles?
So that specific type of enforcement, when we did the stop enforcement program, I think that was May 14th, that was one of the items that we specifically had the officers focus on. Is not only the schools, that's a common request, specific roads that we get community requests for, but then loud exhaust in general. As far as notice a decrease, I think it's too soon to tell, honestly. There's a lot of them out there to see, and I think if we specifically wanted to focus on that, it would be an area to where there's a lot out there. There's a lot of noise pollution caused by cars out there that I think it's a little too soon to tell if we've noticed a decrease yet.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate you answering my questions.
Thanks.
Thank you. Great presentation. Let me see. Back on the e-bikes. I like the flyer idea. Just a thought, maybe getting it out to the vendors that sell these e-bikes. To start with that education as they're selling it, giving it to the purchaser of these vehicles or these types of e-bikes. And then after education's correct, that's where it should start. But is there warnings after that? If there's subsequent stops for this individual or individuals? And at what point do you confiscate the e-bike? And is there a fine for that, like you do for cars, impounded and?
Essentially, yes, it could be. I think it's all individual based. I wouldn't want to paint a broad picture or a statement across the entire community that says we're going to issue one warning and then everything else is going to result in a citation and a seizure of a bike. I leave that discretion up to the officers, as well as they would have any discretion with any other traffic stop to do, and make that determination whether they choose the educational route, whether they choose to contact the parents and educate them, and then handle every subsequent violation individual based instead of just a blanket, you shall conduct enforcement type of thing.
And the e-bikes, do those require a driver's license?
I think there's different levels of e-bikes.
Some of them go pretty
Some of them will.
fast.
Yes.
Okay. Sideshows, I know that they, eventually some of the vehicles get impounded, 30 days. At what point, and how much does it cost when they impound it?
For a full 30 days, it'll be a few $1,000s. There'll be the towing fee and then a storage fee, so you'll look at anywhere between $2,000 and $4,000 for once that 30 days is up to come and get the release from the police department first, and then go to the tow yard and pay all their associated fees.
And if there's, once they get it out and they do this again, does the fee go up or is it still set at the 1,000?
The fee itself will still be set the same. Depending on the subsequent conviction of repeated offenses, that's when the criminal side and the district attorney could have more severe criminal consequences because of it.
Yeah, it would be in favor of increasing that because they put in, as you know, lots of money into these vehicles. So it's a joke to them when $1,000 or 30 days impound, right? It's like no big thing for them. And then the injured parties, because there is injured parties at some of these sideshows. How does the arrest and how do they get them whole again? I mean, when they get injured at these sideshows?
Specifically for sideshows, there'd be restitution. There could be restitution imposed, exactly. So that'd be through the district attorney side, through the criminal prosecution. There'd be civil liability as well. There'd be through big if insurance covers the damages if they look at it as a traffic collision, as where there wasn't an intentional act done by it. There's different avenues for that. It would be, again, kind of individual based to see if there's going to be restitution, vehicle insurance will cover it, or if they want to civilly sue them for the damages or the injuries.
The other concern with sideshows is getting caught in the middle of this, sideshow, because it's happened to us twice, and I have a granddaughter that's in a wheelchair with special needs, in a store, and all of a sudden off Davis, right, we come out and there's, seems like thousands of cars and we can't get out, right? Yeah, police has come and everything, but, we're there, and has seizures, and, it's all kinds of timing issues with us when we do get her out. And I'm sure we're not the only ones that get stuck out there. Maybe an elderly person, or, it's hard. It's really hard when we're dealing with that, and you may just be caught in a crossfire, or car gets damaged, whatever, and you're an innocent party out there.
It definitely is, yeah, especially those residents who live in the area where they frequently visit. I can understand the frustration of hearing that constantly.
On the schools, the education that's being done, was ecology action. Are they doing it bilingual? They do bilingual offerings?
Yes.
Okay. And the bicycle safety, you listed that there's items that are distributed. What are those items?
For the bicycle safety, I don't know the specifics. I can get you that information. I know the helmets is one of them for the repair workshop. Is that where you're referencing there?
No, under helmets, you have helmets distributed. That was one of my questions.
Oh, safety items distributed?
What?
I'm thinking like the flashing lights and elbow pads.
Oh, like
or
the red
something.
lights,
Yeah.
okay.
Like all that stuff.
I would assume that too. I could get back to you with those answers.
I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Are you ready? No, I'm just
Hi,
kidding.
yes.
Can you go to page 2, please, Martha? I just have a question on that.
Page 2.
Oh, yeah.
So in everyday conversation, oftentimes traffic and motor units are used interchangeably, but it's important to see the traffic unit encompasses the education, the enforcement, and then the motor units are the actual motorcycles, like a part of the traffic unit, right?
Our traffic unit consists only of motorcycles. Motorcycle
Okay.
officers, yes.
Okay, but in other departments, the traffic unit does include patrol cars and?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. It very well can.
Okay.
Yeah, I know back in the early 2000s, I believe, the traffic unit consisted of 6 motorcycle officers, 2 patrol
Okay.
officers in a car, a community service officer, and then a sergeant, all full-time. So they did have the enforcement and the investigation side of the motorcycle officers and patrol cars, yes.
Okay. So with that said, how does one become a motor unit or a traffic unit officer? Is there like years of experience? Is there rank?
So similar with any other assignment at the police department, once there's a opening, there'll be a memorandum sent out requesting a letter of interest. They submit a memo saying, hey, I'm interested, and they go through an interview process. We do an assessment of their performance. We solicit input from their previous supervisors as well, determining their proficiency, and then we make a selection and we go through a training process specifically to ride a motorcycle. Is that kind of what you're asking for, the
Yeah, I wasn't
motorcycle
sure.
aspect
Yes,
of it?
yeah,
Okay.
kind of like that, like the 3 years of service or any specific requirements?
For years of service, I know that's fluctuated over the years. They at least have to be off of their probationary term, or the probationary status. And I think right now it's 2 or 3 years of service. And then once they're selected, they go through, they basically learn how to ride a motorcycle, become proficient in riding. And that's done at very slow speeds around cone patterns, essentially. Once they demonstrate a level of proficiency, we send them to a motorcycle training course that is certified through the state, through Post, and they are able to demonstrate proficiency there where they're evaluated. And then once they pass, they come back to us. We put them through again, a short little training period where we pair them up with a senior motorcycle officer where they go and practice traffic stops, practice radio etiquette, since they're having to learn how to ride, pull someone over, talk on the radio, and multitask and do that. And then they're on their own.
And I imagine there's probably a salary variance for those positions?
Yes, the full-time motorcycle officers, through their contract, have a 5% salary increase.
Okay. So for the officers that are collateral, the 6 officers that work on an overtime basis, how does that work?
So they are not subject to the 5% increase. It would be similar as if they were coming to fill a patrol vacancy or work overtime in another capacity. They just do so on the motorcycle.
But they have the training, though?
They do have the training,
Okay.
yes.
Good, good to know. And does the traffic unit have their own chain of command, like you have your traffic unit sergeant, or is it shared?
Yes, so I am the sergeant for the traffic unit,
Yes.
yes. And then I report to a commander who oversees the traffic unit as well.
Okay, good. Now, on the investigation side, say you are the one or the 2 full-time traffic officer out on the field, and an accident happens and you're investigating. Does that pull you from the field?
It could, depending on the level of injury. Either I'll get pulled from the field to assist or oversee that investigation, and they'll try to backfill my position for the time being. And that'll either be done with calling another sergeant in to fill the assignment, or somebody else from a different capacity.
Okay. On the subcontractor, Ecology Action, is the program ran at their discretion, or is there input from the
no.
department, or?
There are input, yes.
Okay, because I see it's sort of cut and paste as far as the activities. Is there more detail on the activities over year, on what has been done, what hasn't worked, any feedback, any community?
Yes, absolutely, yes. So before we begin the execution of the grant, we sit down with them, and they have their kind of layout as far as what they've implemented in other communities, and we're able to tailor that to our specific one as far as what we like to see. And it's a collaborative effort from Ecology Action and the Salinas Police Department to fulfill that.
Can we get a reporting on maybe like the last year, sort of the activities, the feedback?
Sure.
Thank you. And my last question. When conversations about traffic calming opportunities around town are being done by either community outreach groups, with our city council members, how much of an input does the traffic unit have on traffic calming opportunities?
Again, I would say that's specific to the area and what the traffic calming device that's being requested. They may reach out and request our opinion in a certain area, and we'll provide it as far as what we see with crash data, what we see with enforcement aspects, or what we get from the community's requests that are directed to us. If it's specific for calming devices, we route them to contact the engineering department or the city on that, because that'd be the proper channel to follow, or to submit the request would be through the city and not through the police department when it comes specifically to traffic calming devices.
And the reason I ask that is oftentimes a lot of these requests are more reactive to what's trending, and the engineering department is going by historical data. And so we're looking at 3, 4, 5 years down the road data, and we're not looking at what's happening this year. Maybe now there's more people cutting through a big street because of whatever reason. And so it would be nice for you guys to be part of that process as opposed to just subjective if additional information is needed.
Absolutely. I know they have their own means of collecting data too, and not relying on historical data that may be a few years old. And they do that through conducting surveys of how many vehicles travel through a certain area for reference. For example, what you referenced as far as what may have been a slow traveled street, and for whatever reason now there's more vehicles on that roadway. They're able to go through and measure that data and determine, hey, there has been an increase of vehicle traffic in this specific roadway, and so therefore they need to look at maybe re-engineering it, more lighting, better lighting, maybe introducing a crosswalk to that area. That's I don't want to get too much in it, but that'd be kind of their area of expertise as far as getting that immediate data, that immediate feedback, as far as traffic volume and requests from the community. Where we would come into play would be if we have using that same example, an increase of collisions because of the increased traffic or because of a roadway design or something. That would be the limited input that we would be able to provide when it comes to that.
So as a resident of Salinas, if I was thinking, hey, I've noticed 5 accidents in the past year here, no one's really talking about it, and I wanted to access crash data, would I go to the traffic unit department for information, or would I be directed somewhere else?
You could reach out to us.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Good.
Yeah.
Those are all my questions.
Or
Thank you.
me specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I didn't hear your answer as to where she could get the crash data?
Through me.
Through you?
Through the police
Okay.
department, yes.
Okay. With education, are you training these students at school, and what are the age levels that you're training them to ride e-scooters or e-bikes, or the training that you do? What's the age of those children? Are they children under elementary school or junior high?
We don't do any specific training for e-bikes
Okay.
yet, anyway. All of our stuff is around bicycles and scooters.
Okay.
As far as the educational aspect of it, the how to ride safely on a scooter, how to ride safely on a bicycle. We haven't traversed yet in the area of e-bikes and e-scooters, even though they're very similar in nature, but we haven't touched on that yet.
And is that in elementary school, junior high, or is it a public forum or a private forum that you go to?
We've done
and bring
every-
these students? I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, yeah, we've done everything from elementary school, junior high, high school. We've done parenting classes to where first-time parents, and we have just the parents and their children. So kind of touched on all age demographics in the community.
Do they get an award once they finish the training? Is it a one-day training course? Do they get a reward or a certificate that they learned how to ride a bike or a scooter?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I mean, they'll be awarded with usually a helmet if
Yeah.
they participate
Yeah,
in
well,
that.
that's good, yeah. Just let them know if you pass the course, you get a helmet. That way you can tie it to it.
Yeah.
But it's always nice to have a certificate that says, I completed this kind of training. I think for children, they take that very seriously.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad parents attend as well, because if you train the child and not the parents, then, like you said, a lot of the times the parents don't even know what they're doing out in the road. So it's important that the parents get involved as well.
Absolutely.
I was so happy to hear that Greenfield is finally taking control of their city with e-bikes and scooters. Do we have ordinances in Salinas on how to use these scooters and where they should drive them, not in the road, don't knock over seniors or people that are walking on sidewalks? Because that's happening a lot. And, I wonder, does Salinas have an ordinance that you know of, or does the police department, on what are the rules of the road, let's say?
Exactly. To my best knowledge, we do not have a city ordinance. A lot of the vehicle code will kind of overlap the ordinances that are in place that other cities that I've seen enact similar ordinances. But going back, the vehicle code will cover a substantial amount of that. And I do know that one of our officers is working on, again, a pamphlet, and I think the educational route at first would be a good avenue. I think one of the members suggested the companies that sell them. And it made me think, well, what about the local bike stores that we have? Why don't we put the pamphlets in there, so when they go in to get their bicycle repaired, or they purchase a bike or some sort of equipment, they have a pamphlet there that talks about the rules of the road. And that'd be another avenue to explore, is putting those pamphlets out. So not only when we do the outreach educational component of it, but we could have them out there maybe in schools too. But I think at the bike locations too, as long as they're willing to be on board, we can have those pamphlets to distribute as well.
Yeah, I like what Greenfield did. They have a zero tolerance informants for e-bikes and e-scooters. So they're really taking it serious to the point that there will be fining for violations. They will be fining the parents if the children are found to be doing something that's not appropriate. I don't know how well that's going to do in Greenfield, but I know in Salinas we'd say, oh, poor kids, they don't have any money, but they have money to buy a bike or a scooter. And I've heard a lot about possibly reducing the amount of the fee that they were supposed to be charged, because poor people, they don't have the money. But, you know, if you break the law, you've got to enforce it. The same thing with parking at schools, parking in bike lanes. There's a lot of slack, and, you know, the police department could be bringing in a lot of money if they enforce that. You know, because they always do it, they just assume, I mean, they won. They won. And maybe if you, with these other police officers that you're hiring, maybe you'll be able to tackle that situation more, because I think all the schools have the problem of parking on the bike zones, and we need to make it safe for them. You know, enough's enough, and you know we've got to get tough and get some of those tickets out and cite these people, and you know, and make it hurt. You know, like the ones that are racing in the streets, the sideshows. Make it hurt. Make it a big number. You know, and also have the parents accountable. When they have these sideshows, are they all over 18, and are they all licensed that you know of, that you've come across, or are there some
No and no.
juveniles?
I said no and no. Are they all over 18? No. They're all licensed? No.
No.
There's going to be an assortment of under 18 participants, drivers, spectators, and those who are licensed, suspended license, no license, so.
You have the work cut out for you. As far as the noise ordinance, is there, you know, the mufflers and the roaring of the engines and all this, it's very disturbing. But what I find disturbing, and I don't want to sound like a prude, is also music. Isn't there an ordinance on how loud they can play the music in their cars? Because I may not be interested in what they're playing, but they want to make sure the whole street knows the music that they're playing. And, you know, I think that's very disrespectful, but, you know, I don't know if you can put a laws to radios. If you're going to listen, you know, to loud music, roll up your windows and blow out your ear canal or whatever it is. I just don't think it's the right thing to do. But, I mean, Salinas is a different type of animal. You know, we have all types of people here, and some follow the rules, and unfortunately others don't. So that's all my comment. I was just very, very pleased that they are going to have a Greenfield is going to have a zero tolerance policy, no sidewalk riding, e-bikes and scooters, helmet laws under the age of 18 must wear, but I think over 18 should wear helmets as well. And the traffic laws, that they have to obey all the traffic laws, signals and the flow of traffic. Because I get scared when I'm driving and I see somebody coming towards me. You know, it's like you're supposed to be going the other way. But I guess maybe they're not teaching education. What is it? The educational class that they used to have in school?
Driver's education.
Driver's ed. I guess they don't have that driver's ed anymore. Or if they do, maybe they're not enforcing or teaching them all the rules. Or maybe the rules have changed. You know, be happy. Do what you want. Might as well. And I'll stay home. So thank you. Those are all my comments.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. We
thank
really
you.
appreciate it. I do have a question on your grant, I believe it's the pedestrian bicycle grant. I see that the Ecology Action, it's out of Santa Cruz. Do we not have a local nonprofit that could help and help keep fund our local economy?
To my knowledge, we don't, which is why we've contracted out to them. I do know they do have an office here in Salinas, and they do contract with a lot of neighboring jurisdictions as well within Monterey County to fulfill their OTS requirements as well.
Okay. And then I know it was mentioned restitution for those, or anything, what would happen to those that were injured at the sideshow. But what about, is it illegal? Well, obviously it's illegal, but spectators, what happens? Do they get tickets? Or individuals that may not be driving but are passengers that are caught, are they arrested as well?
Yes. Absolutely. Which there were a few out of the 4 we arrested. A few of them were spectators in the vehicle, and the whole culture around sideshows and the specific actions that those passengers were doing, that we know they're doing because they're on video doing it, contributed to us being able to, one, identify them, and then say that not only were they spectating, but they were aiding and abetting in the sideshow. So depending on their level of involvement will kind of depend how they're held accountable. But yes, absolutely, being there, specifically being a passenger in a vehicle at the time of a sideshow is illegal in and of itself, yes.
So if they're injured, are they entitled to restitution, or because they were technically
If they're
participating?
committed a crime, that would be dependent on the state and a whole different entity that they would have to work out. That wouldn't be anything specific that we as a police department or specifically the traffic unit would be involved in as far as restitution or who gets it. As far as just determining or helping determine, that would be a whole different entity that doesn't involve us.
I did have one more, sorry. Oh, I did notice on one of the slides, I believe it had to do with the sideshow, you found, someone was found in Marina. Did flock cameras assist in that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And I think, I mentioned you're seizing for 30 days. I know in some instances you're able to pay for that up front and not have to do the 30 days automatic impound. Is that happening?
Not to my knowledge. That's the first I've heard of it. So for the 30-day seizure it's essentially a search warrant that we submit to a judge, and the judge is the one that ultimately authorizes the seizure of the vehicle. Once a judge authorizes that, we seize a vehicle. There's no way of paying it up front and then getting it out before 30 days. It's anything other than that same judge issuing a new order telling us to release it, or the legal owner, which would be like the bank, credit union. By law, we'd have to release it to them since they're the legal owners of it. That'd be the only 2 ways that it would get released, to the legal owner or the same judge saying, hey, we're ordering you now to release it before the 30 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I believe that is all my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, great. I have a couple. I was listening to noise ordinances. I was reading a booklet, ordinance booklet. There it does exist, an ordinance does exist for noise, okay? And I don't see nobody, officers or anything, stopping any vehicles. Well, why is that?
We do. We may be citing vehicles for the vehicle code and not the ordinance for it. I think because we're more educated on the vehicle code as traffic officers, and it is something that's more widely knowledgeable and accepted and known within the traffic court system, because essentially if it's a non-criminal traffic violation, it's going to be handled in traffic court, and that entity, it's more commonplace to see those types of violations.
Because I believe myself that if we want to start correcting, we got to start from the smallest problems up, you know? If you let the little ones go, people are just going to laugh, you know, at you guys, so that's one. Also, the other thing, dark windows. I see a lot of cars with dark. I wanted to tint my windows on my car.
Oh, okay,
And I took it
yes.
to a place and they said, you know what, you can only go so much. Beyond that, they'll cite you. I see a lot of them real dark, and are you taking care of those too?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
It's,
I see a whole bunch
it's similar to the noise, the exhaust noise is, the window tint. I mean, there's so much of it out there, that, especially the front windshield. And that comes into play in the criminal investigation too that we do. If there's a car that has windshield tint, the actual windshield itself is tinted, and we are able to identify that as a contributing factor, that may affect them criminally, that may affect them whether their insurance decides to cover them in that crash or not. So there are so many different avenues to explore for that. I mean, not only is it one illegal in and of itself, but then also the investigative aspect when we start conducting, you know, the collision investigation after a crash has happened, that may come into play as well. But going back, if I may, real quick, to the exhaust ordinance, I'll have to familiarize myself with it, but I do know within the vehicle code, a lot of that stuff will be wrapped around the state referee site to where it forces the driver, if we cite for the vehicle code, it'll force the driver to go correct that car, and they can't be driving until it's fixed. And if they continue to drive it, then we tow the car and take it off the street. Or I would assume the city ordinance is going to be they pay a monetary fine and they keep going. So with a vehicle code attached to it, or the reason we may use a vehicle code instead of, like I said, I'll have to familiarize myself with the ordinance, is that there is a stronger penalty behind it if they continue driving and don't get their car fixed. If that makes
Also,
sense.
the other comment I have is, back in 2025, and there was a lot of donuts, you know, a lot of issues on that. And in my mind, I said, when is that going to stop? Well, finally, 2026 came in, and I think you impounded vehicles, cited, you know, drivers, and I think that kind of reduced things down a little bit. I'm not seeing or hearing as much as before, so that was a good action taken, and that's what I mean. I mean, if action is taken, people will catch on. But if you ignore it, they continue and make it grow bigger, so that was a good move. Also, the other question I had is, yeah, I've been hearing that you guys been educating the kids for, you know, in school for bikes and all that. And I was invited to a barbecue just the weekend, and that question popped up. They asked me, hey, you're in the police advisory committee? Yeah. I said, are they doing anything about that? I mean, you know, I said, yeah. I said, well, our parents invited on that, to those meetings. I said, I don't know for sure. I don't know. I imagine they do, you know. I said, well, because they haven't invited me and my kids, you know. So how is that handled? I mean, because I mean, if you only educate the kids and not the parents are the ones that are, you know, discipline the kids, while you guys enforce the laws. But if we're not working together, then nothing's going to be accomplished. How are we doing it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been to presentations to where it's just specifically for the parents, and then others we've been to the presentations where it's the parents and the children, and then others where it's just the school-age children as well. Most of the presentations, we're invited to the location, and we're not the host of it. So like, for instance, the Salinas City Elementary School District, Roosevelt Elementary School, we're invited to those locations, and it's up to the host to determine whether they want the parents present. Sometimes they do. Sometimes it's some sort of parent-child event that's going on, and it's a perfect opportunity to us to get the parents and the children at once as well. But I do agree that I think being able to talk to both of them at the same time will have the biggest amount of impact, because the parents know exactly what the laws are, the safe ways to ride, and then the implications if they don't.
maybe, I was trying to look in Facebook, see if I find some media, information on that, and I don't see any. I don't know if that would help, put it on Facebook or somehow let the parents know, hey, you're all invited, and blah, 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 make it more interesting for them. Okay, and my last question is, I don't know how much say you would have on this, police department or anything. Now with Amazon been built and all that, it's gonna create a lot of traffic. Do you have any input in that? I mean, hey, we should put maybe a stoplight here or a crosswalk or whatever, Police department don't have no say on that?
Nothing that's trickled down to my specific level as far as the traffic unit. I know the engineering department, or the traffic engineering department will conduct their own studies and surveys themselves to determine crosswalks, stop signs, and appropriate level of lanes and everything. But as far as the enforcement side, nothing that's trickled down to me.
And then after a while, after whatever's installed, you guys make a study? Hey, this was installed, so far from this point to this point, we had all this kind of access, whatever, so it merits to do changes, and you don't get involved in all that?
If we notice a specific increase in a certain area, absolutely. I mean, we've done so before, where we're like, hey, you know what, I think we should probably start looking at maybe a crosswalk here, a crosswalk there, just based on our own data as far as crash data or speed enforcement goes, or traffic enforcement goes. And we can work collaboratively in that form, yes.
Okay, I guess that's it for me.
I do have one more follow-up question. I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
It was regarding the process with speaking with the e-bike riders and scooters. Do you guys take any names when you do the education part? Say, because I guess that's the first instance of pulling them over, or kind of, it's a teachable moment. But just to kind of track that, do you guys take any names? And just to see like, oh, you know what, we've spoken to you before, kind of thing?
To keep record, no, we don't have any internal database for that. I mean, with only usually, 2 full-time officers, we usually share data internally, but as far as like a specific database, we input the rider's name or information, no, we don't.
Okay.
I think that's a great idea.
All righty, now we'll go to public comments on this item.
Sorry, I have one more. Just, I know you were writing down about Greenfield and what they instituted there. Chief Mixer would be a good resource to contact. It's really good to give you the information, so maybe something like that could be brought here.
Okay, thank you.
And just one last one on the schools. Is this the STOP program that does the education at the schools? Or the ecology?
No, ecology.
Okay, and how do they select the schools?
That'll be, so usually before that grant began, we sit down with representatives and we identify the schools that if we've gone to them last year, we more than likely won't go to them again this year. We'll try to go around Salinas and hit schools we haven't been to before, and identify those who, that haven't had basically where we haven't stopped at before.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Committee members? Committee with public comments?
Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Name is Eric Peterson. And a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to a bus driver who complained that teenagers had been popping wheelies in front of him. And a couple of days after that, I talked to a different bus driver who had similar things. And I know Salinas Police has done a good job when you can of capturing that, but it's out of control. And it's not just the bicyclists. I don't know if anybody here ever knew Dory Sillinger. Dory lived here for a while. I knew him when he lived in Oakland. World-class paracyclist, world record holder. Last month was killed by a vehicle in Texas. Every time I've been hit by a car, 2 hit and runs, by the way. Every time I've been hit by a car, I've been 100% legal. So it's not just the bicyclists who cause the problem, although most of bicycle crashes are caused by the bicyclist. We've got a good Vision Zero plan, and we really need to more fully implement it. And that would necessitate increasing the traffic unit substantially. I remember when it was 5 motorcycles and 2 cars, and the cars were John Butts and Bud Van Barkom, who were both excellent cops, and they do most of the crashes. And something like that would still not be enough. But the Vision, I don't know if you're familiar with the Vision Zero plan, but it is. And just for what it's worth, years ago, a little over half a century ago, I worked for the city of Palo Alto in bicycle safety, and I've still got some of the stuff I had there. And we could chat about that sometime when you get a moment. Lastly, especially regarding e-bikes, there's legislation in both state assembly and the state senate regarding e-bikes, and if passed, there's going to be some big changes. For what it's worth, the vehicle code and the highway design manual are both very safety related for bicycles, and they're good resources. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments on Zoom, Martha?
No comments via Zoom.
Okay, now, Indian committee member comments.
Okay. I've got something I just want to make a quick comment on. I wanted to personally thank the Salinas Police Department for coming out to our the District 5 movie night. Commander Magana and Sergeant Scott Sutton both came by and made a great presence there at Northgate Village. I just want to thank them personally. Obviously, it went through Chief Acosta. Second thing I wanted to mention was that in the talks of the speeding vehicles or the vehicles with loud exhaust, I did send an email to Renee, city manager, about a new tactic that's there that Seaside's using for Car Week, and they've actually gone through and trained their officers with specialized decibel readers to actually track, the vehicles who are in violation going above the 100 decibel thing. I made a suggestion that would be a great thing for the Salinas PD, especially for the traffic unit. He has not responded, so hopefully he'll take that under consideration, but that's all I got for my reports.
Any comments?
Yeah, I do. I actually have a decibel reader that I can donate to whoever wants it. I took my neighborhood watch very seriously, and I would sit out there and measure the traffic. Because it would measure it also measured the traffic to make sure they were doing it right. And we had, at that time, we were one of the first ones that had the speed cushions, and we actually had people going 70 on Little River Drive in Salinas. That's by Safeway. I have a comment. I'd like to know if there's any artist people here that know how to. I'm not very good with the computer. I used to be, but I'm a has-been in that area. And I need to put out a poster, because there's a lot of people, I don't care how much social media there is out there, they will not look at city stuff. But if you give them a flyer, and maybe it's just a few people, maybe they will adhere or come to the meetings. I'd just like to know if we can have a generic flyer for all of us in case we want to send an announcement, so we're not all doing our same thing, Just something standard, simple, and just to say, we're the advisory committee, any comments you might have, we normally know where to direct them, but some of them we have to take on. I'll tell you why. We have, I live on Little River and Manchester, and I'm at the far end, the upper end, but last week I did a walking tour of my neighborhood, and they told me in 1 week they had 4 accidents on Constitution and Manchester. And I said, did you report it? No. Was anybody hurt? We don't know. We just know that they just took off. We're fine. Leave us alone. And they took off. So I had brought this up before. I'm just wondering, is there any way that we could have a traffic police officer that maybe randomly goes and watches that intersection? Because the way they fly from Manchester to Little River, or from Constitution, Manchester, and Little River, It's really dangerous, and we've had apparently a lot of accidents that are not reported. And that's why I was asking for a flyer, if anybody could develop a flyer so we could all generate, maybe if there's an announcement that we need to make within maybe 5 or 6 houses that need advising and they will not go into social media. So I'd like to see something like that. I don't know if anybody would like to volunteer, but I can't. I would like to, but I can't. So that's just out there. The other thing is, I was looking at I was really interested in Greenfield after I saw everything that they're doing. And I compared that with our daily patrol log. And I don't know if I've requested this before, but is there any way they can divide those incidents into districts? For example, you have here, in the 200 block of East Market, it'd be nice to know, we know where East Market is, but it'd be nice to know what district that is. Here's another one. In the 1000 block of Los Palos Drive. It's very generic, but I can understand why. You're not going to put addresses there. But in looking at the Greenfield log versus our log is very hard to understand. The Greenfield log, on the other hand, is very easy to understand. Vandalism on Apple Avenue, driving with a suspended license, 101 northbound, driving with suspended license again on El Camino Real. But I just think it's better for us if we can have something that we could look at the police log and know where these things are happening. I know Leo's very active, riding around and doing his own policing, which I really appreciate when he does that, because he informs us or he informs the mayor. But I just think that if we had something that was a little bit more structured, I know you don't have very much staff, but if it's easier to read, it would help to know what districts they are. So that's just one of my comments. And also, I guess in Greenfield, they won a drill down contest there, #1, for the drill cadets that they had. I thought that was very interesting. It's called the Greenfield High School California Cadet Corps. And they were representing Greenfield, and they entered the competition, and they won. I thought that was really good. But there was nothing in there about Salinas. It was only Greenfield, King City, Chular, all those little towns. But we're not included in that. And I thought that would be nice to have included in theirs. And we are the biggest city. Maybe we take a lot more accidents because there's more of us here. But still, I just found it very easy to read and very easy to understand. It's got the date, it's got vandalism on Apple Avenue, DUI and probation violation on 4th Street. You get to know what those areas are. Maybe it's to stay away, but still it would be nice to have.
Yeah. Okay.
I would think it's,
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. We need to keep going. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I just want
That's
to
it.
thank you for your information here. I think I learned a lot from you today. I'll be able to take it out to the community, whenever I can. But, yeah, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
great presentation. Thank you.
Meeting is over. Thank you.